another fermenting video. So I've got some ginger and some ginger trimmings, and I just kind of thought I don't want to waste them, and it's getting a little bit past its best. It's the ginger, so as I've got some fermenting things going already and I've got some yeast that I've collected, we might as well have another go at making some ginger beer. So, and I want to do it two ways. I want to use a I should have got the bottles out before I even started talking, shouldn't I? No, and I couldn't, could I? Because I didn't think, I just started, as always. So, I've got some clip top bottles. So, I'm going to make a little batch in them, and then I'm going to make another batch in with an airlock that you use to brew wine and beer and things. So, I'm going to do it two ways. So, I'm just kind of curious. You should be able to do it two ways. It will still have the same results, and I don't want it to turn. I want it to be fizzy, so we're just going to kind of brew it for a few days while it's really kind of like bubbling, and then that's kind of what I want. Oh, I don't want that bit. Yeah, that's good. But we're going to cook this, so that'll be fine. So we've got 3 litres of water which I've boiled, and there's 375 grams worth of sugar in there as well, just normal sugar, and then it's about 200 grams with the ginger, which is all I've got. Ideally I would have gone on a recipe that was 1 litre of water, 125 grams worth of sugar, and then 100 grams worth of ginger, and I think that would have been about nice and gingery. I don't want to go out and buy any more ginger, and the idea is that I'm using up what I've got, so we'll go for, I think 200 grams would be enough, but I would put another 100 grams in there, but we'll see how we go. So I need to, that's not going to stretch, is it? Is it? Ish. Yes. Okay, so it's boiled. I'm going to boil it up again, but I just want to puree this ginger in here. So we'll see if the stick blender does it. Oops. That looks alright, it's doing an okay job. Yeah, turn it off before I fish those bits out of the blade, I don't want to lose fingers. Yeah, I put the skin in as well. There's lots of flavour in the skin, so you might as well put the skin in as well. It's quite, it's stronger in flavour is the skin. So turn that on. So I've got fly things in the house. So there's lots of flavour in the skin, so the skin can go in as well, and that'll probably compensate for them me using slightly less ginger than I would have liked. Give it a taste now. Yeah, it's going to be nice and gingery. I don't know if it's going to be sweet enough. Although we don't want it too sweet, do we? No. So, bring them to the boil, and we're going to boil it for, how long? We're going to boil it for about 10 minutes. We'll simmer it for 10 minutes, and then it'll kind of like mix all the flavours together. I'm going to put some lemon as well. So, but it won't be that lemony that the acid will kill my natural yeast which I've collected. Some pips are going to go in, but it'll be fine because we're going to strain the liquid. So, 2 lemons and the taste. I suppose I should have taken the zest off these before we started. Pips can go in because we're going to strain them out. Yeah, I think you can make your own, collect the yeast from the actual ginger. So you make, in the same process that I made the, collected the grapes and got the yeast off the grapes, you can do the same with ginger. As long as you use the outside of the ginger, you don't wash it, and it hasn't been washed, there's super natural yeast on there that you can collect and turn into the starter for the ginger beer. But you don't have to. You can use any kind of brewer's yeast that you like, or champagne yeast, or anything like that. All the yeast that I've collected from those grapes, which were cheap on the market, and they're a little bit past their best anyway. So there's certainly some good yeast on there anyway. How does it taste now? It's very nice, it's that. I think it could do with a bit more sugar. We'll see. But we're always playing around, aren't we? I just think it must be a little bit sweeter than that. It kind of depends if you want a sweet drink or a savoury drink. There is, so I have learned recently that I was fermenting some of the juice from some pear syrup. So I poached some pears and I kept the syrup because I do other things with it, and it's full of flavour. It's delicious, and you can kind of use it as syrup and all kinds of things. So I kept it, and I kind of thought, oh well, I'll see if I can ferment it, and it didn't work. What I had to do is had to let it down. So it was like a 1-to-1 ratio, like a simple syrup. So it was like a 1-to-1 ratio of sugar to water, and it didn't want to ferment. And I kind of thought maybe it was because it's quite heavily spiced, and things like cloves are I forget, but they kill. They're like an antiseptic as some spices. So I did think that maybe the spices had killed the yeast, or it was either that there was too much sugar in there and the sugar had killed the yeast. Obviously, the yeast needs sugar to grow. Fly things in the house. I don't want to kill it. So the yeast needs sugar. We'll turn this on for 10 minutes. We'll just boil that for 10. So simmer for 10. So the yeast needs sugar to grow, but too much sugar is a preservative. So it kind of kills bacteria. Just too much sugar. So I kind of thought, well, maybe it was that, and I think it is because it was a bit too sugary. So there was too much yeast, too much sugar in there, and it killed the yeast rather than feeding the yeast. But anyway, so simmer that for 10 minutes. We'll let it go cold to room temperature, and then we'll strain it and put it in some bottles. Taste it, put it in some bottles, and we'll see which version works. Probably both will, but I want like a fizzy drink, and it's how they used to make fizzy drinks. So these days they carbonate the liquid through a mechanical process, but in the good old days, like fizzy pops used to be actually fermented, so they're slightly alcoholic. Yeah, it's going to be really gingery, is that? That should be nice. So 10 minutes, we'll let it go completely cold, and then we'll strain it. We'll add some yeast. It's fine, it's still bubbling. I've had it in the fridge, just need to give it a stir. But yeah, it smells yeasty. It smells like I made ginger beer before, and it smells like the ginger beer that I made before. I wonder actually if I couldn't get a ginger bug to work, so I wonder if it's a different type of yeast that you collect off ginger than you do off grapes. I can't imagine so. I can imagine it's just there's certain types of yeast which ferment liquids, and it doesn't matter if you get it from some grapes, or you get it from some apples, or you get it from some ginger, you know, because it's kind of what we're saying. So like cider, what they do is they just don't necessarily have to rely on like a proper cider. They don't have to rely on adding a yeast to the apple juice. What they do is you just don't wash the apples, squish them naturally, and then the juice that comes out has kind of already got the yeast in it that it's going to take to ferment it, and that's kind of what they used to do. So anyway, I'm waffling as always. So there we go. We'll leave that, let it go cold, and then we'll bottle it up, add some yeast, and we'll see what happens. The camera's probably a little bit too low down, but I can't adjust it. So the ginger has cooled. I'm just going to strain it, all the bits of ginger out of it, and then we'll squeeze all the juice out of the ginger. It just makes it easier if I'm using the cloth. The cloth's clean, it's just stained because I use it for everything. And it's only for me, so I'm not really bothered. I've sterilised everything as well, so I poured boiling water in the containers and into the jars and all that kind of stuff. So there's going to be too much liquid for that, so I need to faff. So that into there, that out of the way for the second. So what's going to happen is I'm going to strain this and I'm going to squeeze the juice out of it, which will mean that this second container will be more concentrated with the ginger flavour. So we need to kind of mix that back into the first container, so we've got like an even amount of gingery goodness. So that into there, that's quite a lot of ginger. So I'm sure that's going to be a good amount of ginger for the what we call it, for the ginger beer. Be nice and gingery. If it's too gingery, we can just change the recipe. So do that, squeeze that. So all that juice that we're squeezing out of there will actually be ginger juice from the actual ginger. It'll be more concentrated flavour. So it means I'm going to have to pour things from the jugs and back into each other, so it's a little bit more evenly distributed. And the more juice we squeeze out of there, the more ginger flavour we will get. So squeezy, squeezy. My hands are clean. In fact, to be honest, I never know when my hands are never not clean, because I'm always washing up. I've always got my hands in the sink, so if my hands aren't clean, I don't think anyone's are. So that'll do. Let's not go over the top. That can go on the compost, well, not the cloth. I'll use that again. That out of the way. Hands quick wash. So that's going to be more concentrated. That one in ginger flavour, so we will add some of that into there, some of that into there. Do this a few times, and it'll just be about right. The first one, the second one will still be a little bit more concentrated, but mixing and all that, be about the same. And then I'm going to split it between 3 containers. So I've got that 2 litre, which cider came in, and then these 2 ones with those tops. You know which ones I mean. So fill about this half full. This is very interesting, I can tell you. Take that down to about half a litre. A bit more. And then, ooh, I've got full freezers here. Ooh, maybe not. No, we won't use the full. It's going to be too close to the camera. What we'll do is, that jug's not going to be a very good pourer, so we'll use this jug and then we'll pour into this jug. That kind of makes sense. About half. Just into this one. Can't see that. That's a pot bottle, so I can't really see how full that's going to be, but we'll wing it. You get the idea. So these bottles, I'm just going to fasten the lid and burp them every day, which just means that I open the lid so it'll let out any excess gas, because otherwise if you don't do it, they explode. Which is what happened to my great grandma. She had a ginger plant, she used to make her own ginger beer, and one night they all exploded. It was one of those family legends. And I think she was also told that it was illegal to make your own ginger beer because it was alcoholic. So she in the middle of the night she smashed up her ginger still because she was afraid the police would come and get her. Anyway, all very interesting. Me pouring liquids into a glass container. Right, I made just a little bit too much. I don't think I'll have another container. So there we go. So you want to leave some space at the top for the bubbles to form. Doesn't matter with this one because we're going to put an airlock on it, and then we can see if we can make it both ways. Is that too full? No, that should be fine. Those out the way. Then we've got an airlock, and sometimes these airlocks don't fit into the jars and containers that you want to put them in. They come with little stoppers and things. I'll pull the stopper out so you can see. Like they come with that, but that's too small for that. So I just get some plumber's PTF tape. Is it PTF? PTFE tape, and I just build up the bung so it fits a lot better there. So that into there. So that will ferment like we would do wine and beer, and these will ferment in the bottles. Fingers crossed. So that on there like that. Ooh, hopefully. Yes, that on there like that. And then we'll see what happens. And then we need a little bit of water in that, but you don't need to see that, do you? No, it's kind of quite boring. So we'll see how we go. I reckon it'll probably start fermenting tomorrow. It's a little bit warm, which is a good thing. So it's kind of like blood temperature is ideal, really, for kind of when you're fermenting things. Oh, it's not going to ferment because we haven't put any. What we call it in, have we? We haven't put any juice in from the grapes. So that would have been disastrous, wouldn't it? So, spoon. Just squeeze off some of this juice from the grapes like that. Need to add some sugar and some water to that so it keeps fermenting. The more we put in, the quicker it's going to start fermenting. So I'm not going to put too much in because the yeast is just going to multiply by itself. So teaspoon in those, be fine. The more you put in, the quicker it will start fermenting. But we've got plenty of time. It's not as if we're going anywhere. So there we go. So that on there, put an airlock in there. That on there, like that. But they'll start fermenting straight away, but there won't be any signs of fermentation for a little bit because it'll take a little while for the yeast to get going. But there we go. We'll check on those tomorrow and the day after and all that kind of stuff. I just need to do that. That's fine. So I'll put some water in there, etc., etc. Right, ginger beer has been going for a couple of days, and the one with the airlock on it has started to bubbles have started to come through, but there's no visible bubbles rising up the ginger beer just yet. So I haven't burped the ones in the bottle yet. I'm going to do it now, so hopefully they won't explode. So they should pop. So I haven't done the other one. I'll go and get the other one as well. Hang on. So yeah, I like a bit of authenticity in videos. I don't like that idea of here's what I did earlier. This is what you do. Da 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 da. I like to show everything, warts and all mistakes. If these are going to explode, I'm going to show it. So let's just a little bit. You hear that? It smells of ginger beer as well. So we'll do this one as well. No, that one didn't do it. So that's fine. We burped them. They burped a little bit. There's a little bit of build up in gas, but I've had them on the windowsill, so that might just be a expanding and contracting because it's on the windowsill and it gets warm and the sunlight gets there, which I kind of think helps our fermenting process. Probably someone will disagree with that, but I kind of find that if it's on the window and the sun is heating it, it gets up to a decent temperature, and the fermentation starts. And I think sunlight as well. You know, like with growth with yeast and things like that. You know, like things need a bit of sunlight, and they need some food, and they need some water, and they need air generally to grow. So it popped a little bit. That process will speed up, but by burping, that's what I mean. You just open it up every day, just a little bit, just to let the excess gas out. Otherwise, the gas builds up inside, and eventually it will explode those, which would kind of be like interesting to see, wouldn't it? It'd be like a one of those really long videos, kind of waiting for it to happen. But anyway, so it's fine. We'll burp them again tomorrow, and we'll see if we get a better pop, because it will. So the yeast is it's one of the things like cells divide. So a divide, and it grows and it expands. So it's going to become, I think it doubles. So like think about it, every day the size of the amount of yeast in there will grow. So the more the yeast grows, the more carbon dioxide it will produce, and the greater the pressure in the bottle. So there should be a bigger pop tomorrow. So that was 2 days worth of kind of like a bit of a pathetic pop. So tomorrow it should have that kind of pop, if not even better. But we'll see. Right, so I have transferred into sterilised and transferred into different bottles. So those all got ginger beer in. That's got ginger beer in. And then this is one has got all the yeasty sludge in the bottom. So I'm just going to let that sit, and just when I was pouring it out, it kind of got a bit disturbed. So it just needs to sit a little bit, and then I can take the ginger beer off the top, and then kind of top these up and put it into there. But there you go. So and we'll save that sludge for another project. So do we need to update this again? Probably slightly. I'm going to top that up, and then probably just drink what's in the bottom there. But I'm also kind of curious as well that I've transferred it into a different container, and we're going to keep that in the fridge. So will it still be fizzy? Probably if I left it out for a little bit to kind of build up a little bit of pressure in the containers, because it'll ferment slowly in the fridge. So maybe it will. So we'll kind of see. So I'll just add that bit on at the end of the video. But yeah, a success. Recipe works. I'll do it in the description, and it kind of opens up all kinds of other possibilities as well. So I'm already thinking about other things that I could kind of ferment and maybe turn fizzy, because that's how fizzy drinks used to be. They used to be fermented rather than actually the addition of carbonated water. Well, pumping carbon dioxide through them, which is kind of interesting, because obviously the soft drinks of yesterday, or yesteryear, because it was a long time ago, were obviously naturally fermented and had natural good bacteria in them, so they actually would be better for your gut health. They'd have a little bit of sugar in them, but they'd be good for your gut health in the same way that kombucha and yogurt and fermented sauerkraut and kimchi and all those things are really good for your gut health. So the fermented drinks of the past would be good for you. So even the countries that didn't ferment and preserve things, if they were drinking something like a fermented sweet drink, it would be good for their gut health, and they would be healthier. And it's kind of linked to weight loss and all kinds of things. So I was thinking about that while I was swimming. When I was lost in swimming, I was thinking about things like that, and I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of quite interesting. Whereas we don't have that these days. We just have carbonated, basically sweet water with flavourings, which is terrible for you. Even in a diet Coca-Cola type of thing, I think that stuff must be. I can't wrap my head around the way that something can have 0 calories in it and be sweet and have a flavour. I just can't wrap my head around that. But anyway, that's probably because I use ingredients, and it just kind of doesn't make sense. But anyway, so I'm waffling. I'll let that settle. I'll pour into the bottles, put it in the fridge, all kind of stuff, and there'll be a little bit more at the end of this to see if these are still fizzy once you bottle them up and put them in the fridge. Right, it's been in the fridge. Will it pop? Yes. That means when we pour it over ice, it should be fizzy. Oh, not really fizzy. Not really fizzy. But how does it taste cold? It's delicious. It's delicious. Just not as fizzy as I would have liked. Like the first time we did it was fizzy, wasn't it? Wonder why. Wonder why. We'll see what it's like tomorrow. We'll have another one tomorrow and we'll see what it's like tomorrow. Right, so I've been thinking about this, and I've been thinking that maybe the reason that it carries on fermenting is because of the solid like particles of yeast in the bottom of the what we call it, of the ginger beer, which are in the bottom of there. So you can just slightly see, turn it around, that there's the gunk in the bottom of the ginger beer, which I'm saving something else, but that might be the thing that makes it fizzy when you put it in bottles and it carries on fermenting. So you might have to make it in the bottles and then store it in the same bottles that you make it in, and kind of like just the gunk will be down at the bottom, but it'll carry on fermenting slowly in the fridge, which will make it pop and will make it fizzy. However, this is the one that had some out of last night. So if this pops, that theory's gone straight out the window. This is another one that was a fuller one, so we'll see if that kind of pops. And then this is the one where I collected the gunk from. That one was a little bit left over, which I was just putting into the another container in the fridge, because I didn't want to waste it. And then there's some sediment at the bottom of that. So if that one pops, we'll kind of see. So let's pop and see if anything happens. Ah, okay, so that worked. So that means this one will, that'll pop. And how about this one? There's more of a gap in this one. You just can kind of see there's more of a space at the top of that. So, there we go. So I think for best results, we probably need to leave the yeast debris in the bottom of the. We'll make it and store it in the jar, in the container that we actually ferment it in. But we'll see. We'll see how if this one's. We'll see if they're fizzy when we pour in. So, whoops. Not fizzy. Not fizzy. Sorry, making noises. But it's quite fizzy when you drink it. So it tastes fizzy. It's not like a fizzy carbonated, like lots of bubbles, but it tastes fizzy when you drink it. So we can decant it into other containers and then store it in the fridge. So we can make a big batch of it in like make it in that. Yeah. So we can make a big batch in something that size. We can make 2, 3, 4 litres, 8 litres, whatever size container we've got, and then we can put it into other jars in containers. We don't have to ferment it in the containers that we're going to store it in. That's interesting. That's worth knowing. Although it's probably better to make it and store it in the containers that we are going to store it in. No, it's about the same. It's about the same. So there we go. There we go. It's not fizzy. It's not like a proper carbonated drink, but it tastes fizzy when we drink it. So I suppose kind of depends what you want. I suppose yeah. So I'm going to have another go. I've been thinking about fermenting things at the moment. I tend to go through phases. If anyone ever watches my videos, you'll kind of see that I do a lot of videos about one thing and kind of do my thoughts on that, and there's always more things that I think about when I'm doing something. I kind of like, what if we do this, and what if we do that, and what we do that, and what if we change this, and how is this going to work, and what about this? So at the moment, I'm thinking about things we can ferment. So I've got another experiment I want to do about fermenting. So I can answer some of those questions that I'm kind of wondering about the ginger beer without having to make more ginger beer. I can ask those questions and have those questions answered with the other things that I'm going to ferment. So, a success, it's delicious. Have a go. You know what I mean? It's an easy step into learning how to ferment. You don't have to collect your own yeast like I did. You can simply buy some brewer's yeast or some champagne yeast or some cider yeast, whichever you kind of want. I wouldn't advise using bread yeast because it doesn't taste as good as proper brewing yeast, but there we go.